Big Beautiful Bill. Det här förslaget som Trump la fram som man nu röstar om i senaten. Som till och med faktiskt republikanerna backar ifrån när de väl läser igenom, vilket inte ofta de gör tyvärr. Vi ska kika lite på vad den faktiskt innebär. Vad den gör för amerikaner generellt. Och vad den har för konsekvenser om den blir genomröstad.
Overnight, the Senate Budget Committee releasing their final, updated version of what President Trump calls his big, beautiful bill. Setting the stage for votes to begin as soon as this afternoon, after a tumultuous day of negotiations.
It seems like there's a lot of thorny issues that you've got to work through.
This is called, what I think you guys have said, making the sausage?
Yeah.
So we're making the sausage right now.
President Trump making a last-minute sales pitch for this massive bill that delivers on a slew of his campaign promises.
It's a great bill. It's a massive tax cut.
From a $4.5 trillion extension of the Trump tax cuts to hundreds of billions of dollars in funding for his mass deportation plan, plus eliminating taxes on tips and overtime.
It's a great bill. It's a popular bill, but we'll get no Democrats only because they don't want to vote for Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before.
Democrats slamming the Republican bill's cuts to social programs like food stamps and Medicaid, including imposing work requirements for those benefits. Democrats say that hurts vulnerable people.
Of course Americans hate this bill. It steals their Medicaid. It jacks up their premiums.
But it's Republicans that cannot get on the same page. North Carolina's Tom Tillis concerned about the impacts on rural hospitals.
As we're moving and trying to make changes.
Wisconsin's Ron Johnson telling us the bill does not cut enough spending.
Is there any one particular thing that you're still fighting for at this point?
President Trump said he wanted the Senate to make the bill better. I'd like to make it much better.
Whatever the Senate passes must once again pass the House. We press Speaker Mike Johnson.
Could they be surprised by what the Senate sends them back?
Well, look, I haven't slept maybe 6 hours this week because I'm on the phone all the time with members.
The vast majority of Republicans in both the House and Senate do support this package. And even though President Trump said that he's open to pushing that July 4th deadline, there's a real sense here that they want to get this bill done before the holiday. As soon as the Senate passes the package, it's expected the House will vote very quickly.
Ska vi ge oss på här ett försök att försöka förstå och förklara lite vad det är de här grejerna innebär. Rent ekonomiskt innebär det ju skattesänkningar för företag och de har allra mest pengar, den top 1%, alltså de allra rikaste av de rikaste miljardärerna. De har det ju jävligt tufft. Så det är väl på tiden. Samtidigt då så dras mattan bort för de som är mest utsatta. Medicaid, SNAP och andra sociala skyddsnät kapas. Det innebär att folk som går på bidrag för att ha råd att leva och redan försörja sin familj kommer få det mycket svårare att få de bidragen. Både genom högre krav och ännu tuffare pappersarbete. Och som ni har åtanke att många av de här är ju inte bara fysiskt utsatta utan även mentalt. Många av dem vet inte ens hur man gör för att göra de här ansökningarna. Det finns ju ett miljöaspekt till den här också, det här förslaget. Det är det som SENR-lagen syftar till. Strategic Energy and National Resilience. Kan ju låta kul. Ett robust energisystem. Problemet är ju bara att metoden de väljer att använda för att ta sig till att bli mer självförsörjande är att investera mer av det vi absolut inte vill ha mer av. Vilket vill säga fossila bränslen. Så vad innebär då den här lagen? Stora investeringar i energiinfrastruktur, vilket på papper låter bra. Men kollar man lite närmare så går pengarna nästan exklusivt till olje- och gasprojekt. Alltså det som gjorde att vi hamnade i en energi- och miljökris från början. Så finns det lite grönt här och där också inpetat, men det är mest för syns skull. Vidare, skatteincitament ges till energibolag. Även de som har mest utsläpp. Det finns ingen motsvarande skattehöjning för att finansiera detta. Vilket innebär att pengarna måste komma någonstans ifrån. Vilket innebär att det blir ett hål i budgeten. Vilket leder till att staten pumpar ut pengar. Vilket leder till inflation. Till sist har vi Genius Act. Det är en lag som ska främja AI-forskning och innovation. Det ska skapa en ny federal AI-auktoritet, alltså ett helt nytt statsorgan som har makt över reglering, utveckling och insamling av data. Och den inkluderar även dataövervakningsmekanism. Brukar gå jävligt bra. Samma här. Det finns ingen tydlig finansieringsplan. Man har inte pratat med någon expert på AI. Det kan bli jävligt lurigt om du får en väldigt mäktig myndighet med ansvar för teknik som ingen riktigt fattar än för att AI är så pass snyggt. Under en lagtext som liksom har gått så fort att ingen som har läst den ordentligt. För att få en lite mer djupgående förklaring så kan vi höra på vad Bernie Sanders har att säga om den här.
Thanks very much for joining me. Let me be very clear. Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, now on the floor of the Senate, is one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation ever brought forth in the modern history of our country. It is a gift to the billionaire class while causing massive pain for working families. Actually, I'm wrong. I shouldn't use the word gift because the billionaires paid for it. This bill is an absolute reflection of a corrupt campaign finance system. The billionaires invest hundreds of millions of dollars in candidates and in elections, and in this bill, this piece of legislation, their investment is paying off. So, what are they getting? Well, the top 1% is receiving $975 billion in tax breaks. Further, and this is really quite unbelievable, the wealthiest 0.2% receive a $211 billion estate tax break. $211 billion for the top 0.2%. In that provision, 99.8% of Americans get zero. Further, large corporations in this bill get a $918 billion tax break. That is what the 1% and the wealthy campaign contributors get. So here's what you get, assuming you're not a billionaire. This bill throws over 16 million people off of the health insurance they have by slashing Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by over $1.1 trillion. So, $1 trillion in tax breaks for the 1%, $1 trillion in cuts in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Further, it forces millions of Medicaid recipients to pay a $35 copayment every time they visit a doctor. So what is the impact of all this? What happens when you throw 16 million people off healthcare, you impose a $35 copayment? Well, what the Yale School of Public Health and the University of Pennsylvania estimate is that if this reconciliation bill is enacted, and it's unbelievable for me to say this, but this is what they are telling us, this is what they have studied. If this bill goes through and all these healthcare cuts take place, over 50,000 Americans will die unnecessarily each and every year. 50,000 Americans. In other words, this bill is a horrific death sentence for low income and working class Americans. Further, if this legislation is enacted, rural hospitals all over the country that are already struggling would be forced to shut down. It would also make massive cuts to community health centers and nursing homes. In other words, this legislation is the most significant attack on the healthcare needs of the American people in the modern history of our country. So, our healthcare system is broken, it's dysfunctional, and they make it even worse. And that's not all. This bill wipes out nutrition assistance for millions of hungry kids at a time when we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of nearly any major nation on earth. This bill will also make it much harder for working class kids to receive the higher education they need by cutting education by some $350 billion. At a time when the planet is struggling with climate change, heat waves now all over the world, this bill decimates investment in energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind and solar. If you are concerned about how the United States keeps getting into never-ending wars, this bill makes a bad situation even worse by handing out another $150 billion to the Pentagon, a 15% increase in an already bloated Pentagon budget. Now, I want to applaud all of the Democrats, every single one of them, who strongly oppose this bill. And I want to congratulate two Republicans, Senators Paul and Senator Tillis, for voting with the Democrats in opposition to proceeding on this bill. But here is something really interesting and quite telling about where the Republican Party is today. When Senator Tillis of North Carolina indicated that he would vote against the bill, he was lambasted on social media by Trump, and he was threatened with a primary. He actually did not do what Trump wanted him to do. Is there anything in this world that is worse than that? Today, Senator Tillis announced that he would not seek re-election. So it is pretty clear to me, and I would hope to every American, that the Republican Party of today does not tolerate any independent thought. One might have believed that members of Congress were elected to represent their constituents, to do what they thought right for their constituents. But that's not what it is in the Republican Party right now. The sole function of Republican members of Congress is just to tell Donald Trump how brilliant he is, how infallible he is, how great he is, put up a statue of him on Mount Rushmore, oh my God. And if any Republican, like Senator Tillis, suggests otherwise, they will be politically destroyed. This is pathetic, and it has all of the hallmarks of the kind of authoritarian society that Trump wants to take us into. Dissent is simply not tolerated anymore within Republican ranks. I don't have to tell anybody that this is an extremely difficult moment in American history. Trump and the oligarchs have unlimited wealth. They have a great deal of power and they want more. But there is something that we have. And we saw that just last week in the recent mayoral primary in New York City. So what you had is one candidate supported by all of the big money interests, all of the oligarchs, but you had the other candidate who was supported by ordinary people. And guess who won? The guy, Mr. Mamdani, who was supported by rank and file New Yorkers, won the election. So I think what we can learn from that is that if we stand together and not let Trump and his friends divide us up based on our religion or where we were born or our sexual orientation or the color of our skin, if we stand together, we can beat the oligarchs. And let me tell you, in this moment in history, that is exactly what we've got to do.
På det upplyftande meddelandet så tackar jag för idag. Hoppas att Vi har lärt oss någonting. Jag försöker att förstå det här mer och mer varje dag. Det är sjukt svårt och det är sjukt mycket, men jag försöker. Jag hoppas att det är intressant för någon. Vill ni se mer och lära er mer med mig så får ni gärna prenumerera. Gilla videon om ni gillar den. Lämna en kommentar. Låt mig veta vad ni tyckte. Om det är någonting mer ni vill att jag ska prata om så ses vi i nästa video. Tack så mycket.